I became successful, and my family thinks I owe them everything. I didn't grow up poor, but I didn't grow up easy either. My family came from that middle-class background where you're not starving, but every decision comes with a financial disclaimer. No, we can't go to that vacation spot. No, you can't buy that brand. No, you don't need that guitar, use your cousin's old one. Every birthday, every holiday, every small win, it was always shadowed by we sacrificed so you could have this. As a kid, that made me grateful. As an adult, it made me feel like I was born into a transaction. Still, I worked. I kept my head down. Got scholarships, worked part-time jobs, and eventually broke into tech, which, if you come from a family like mine, is pretty much their version of Hollywood. I landed a job at a startup that actually made it. Like IPO, stock options, sudden wealth kind of made it. In a matter of 2 years, I went from budgeting groceries to casually paying off my student loans in full. I got a nicer apartment, upgraded my wardrobe, and yeah, I posted about it. Not constantly, but just enough for people back home to know I was doing alright, and that's when it started. At first, it was small. My mom would send messages like, "Saw your post, proud of you red heart," followed immediately by, "Your uncle's car just broke down, and he's really struggling. Anything you can do?" Then my cousin, who I haven't spoken to in 5 years, hit me up on LinkedIn. Not to reconnect, not to say congrats. Just to straight up ask, "Hey man, heard you made it big. Could really use 40,000 Indian rupees to pay off some stuff." Family sticks together, right? What struck me wasn't even the ask, it was the entitlement. Like my success wasn't mine. Like I was just a bank in a hoodie. I tried to be polite at first. I sent money once. Then twice. Then I realized that every thank you came with a follow-up ask. I wasn't helping them out, I was becoming their safety net. And not in the loving, supportive way. More like a human ATM with a familiar last name. But it wasn't until my dad called me out during Diwali that it all boiled over. We were sitting around the dinner table. Candles, sweets, laughter, the works. And out of nowhere, my dad leans over and says, half joking, half serious, "You make more in a month than I did in a year at your age. Maybe it's time you gave back a little more, huh?" I looked up. My spoon froze halfway to my mouth. Everyone went quiet. I said, "I do help. I helped when Ma needed dental work. I paid off your loan last year. I gave Nikhil money for college books." He didn't flinch. Just nodded and said, "That's the bare minimum. You wouldn't be where you are if we didn't sacrifice everything. You owe us." Those words stuck. You owe us, not we're proud of you. Not it's amazing to see you thrive. Just that, a claim on my life. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I just quietly left that night, went back to my place, and sat in my kitchen until 3 a.m., asking myself something I hadn't dared ask before: at what point does love turn into guilt? And when do you stop letting it control you? 2 weeks later, I was at a tech conference in Bangalore, talking to a product designer from New York. We were strangers, just chatting between panels, and somehow we got to talking about family. I mentioned what was going on vaguely, and she said something I'll never forget. "You're not selfish for wanting to live your own life. Your success isn't community property." Community property, that's exactly what it felt like. Like I didn't earn anything, like I inherited it, and now everyone had a right to divvy it up. That conversation shifted something in me. I started saying no, I can't cover that wedding expense. No, I won't co-sign a car loan, no, I'm not sending monthly allowances to 5 different people while pretending it's just a little help. And guess what? The love started drying up. Fewer calls, more cold shoulders. My dad didn't speak to me for 2 months straight. My cousin unfollowed me. Even my mom, who's usually the peacekeeper, started getting passive-aggressive in her messages. "I just hope you don't forget who was there for you when you had nothing." And yeah, I felt guilty. Crushed, even. But also free. For the first time, I wasn't spending my entire paycheck trying to earn someone's approval or forgiveness. I was living for me. Investing, traveling, finally going to therapy, all the things I delayed because of someone else's emergency. I thought the hardest part would be saying no. Turns out, the hardest part was living with that no echoing in every family group chat. Every voice note I ignored, every invitation I declined because I knew the real reason I was being asked wasn't to reconnect, it was to collect. 3 months passed, birthdays came and went. No one called. I spent Diwali alone that year, lighting a single diya on my balcony while the city below burst into color. I wasn't bitter. I wasn't even angry anymore. Just sad. Like I'd lost something I couldn't name. But somewhere in that quiet, I also found something I'd never had growing up: peace. I started waking up without that anxious pit in my stomach. I wasn't checking my phone every 5 minutes, bracing for the next urgent message. I was working out, sleeping better, even picked up painting again, something I gave up back in school because engineers don't have time for that nonsense. Life felt mine again, and then, just as I started to settle into this new version of myself, she called. My mom. She didn't start with small talk. No, how are you? No, I miss you. Just a direct hit: your father's blood pressure is through the roof. He's been stressed about money. You know how proud he is, he won't say anything, but this distance is killing him. I stayed quiet. Let her talk. He feels like you've abandoned the family. Like success made you arrogant. Like we don't matter anymore. And there it was, that familiar noose of guilt tightening around my throat. I asked, as calmly as I could, did he ever feel like I mattered when I was working night shifts and studying 14 hours a day just so I wouldn't be a burden? She went silent. I kept going. Did he care when I skipped meals to save money? When I hid the fact that I had anxiety attacks every time he yelled about me wasting time on that coding boot camp instead of applying for a government job? Her voice cracked a little. You think we didn't struggle too? I know you did, I said. But I didn't ask you to suffer so I could be indebted forever. 2 weeks later, I visited home, not for a festival. Not for anyone's birthday. I just showed up on a random Thursday because I didn't want the occasion to color the conversation. I didn't want them thinking I came out of guilt. My dad was sitting on the veranda. Didn't stand up. Just looked at me like I was a stranger. I sat across from him. The silence dragged. Finally, I said, we need to talk. He shrugged, like, here we go, so I laid it all out. Not in anger, just truth, how it felt growing up under the weight of unspoken debt. How success never really felt like mine because it was always tied to someone else's sacrifice. How every time I achieved something, the first question wasn't, are you happy? But what can you give us now? I told him I wasn't running away from the family. I was running toward myself, toward a version of me that didn't constantly live in fear of disappointing everyone. He didn't say much, didn't apologize. Didn't argue. Just sat there, staring into the middle distance. Then he muttered, we just didn't want you to forget us. That broke me a little, because underneath all the layers of pride and tradition and generational trauma, maybe that's what it was all along. Fear. That I'd leave and never look back. That I'd outgrow them. Here's the thing they never tell you when you make it: success doesn't erase history. It doesn't fix broken communication patterns or magically turn your parents into emotionally available people. What it does is give you the power to choose. And for the first time, I was choosing boundaries over burnout. Conversations over assumptions. Truth over tradition. A week after that visit, I sent my parents a letter. Not an email. A real letter, handwritten. I told them I loved them, that I would always be grateful for the foundation they gave me, even if it was cracked in places. But I also made it clear, I wasn't a lifeline. I wasn't an emergency fund. I was their son, not their investment. If they wanted a relationship with me, the real me, then I was open to rebuilding it on equal footing, without guilt or manipulation. If they couldn't do that, I'd understand. It's been almost a year since that letter. My dad never replied. He's still stubborn as ever, still sees my independence as betrayal, I think. But my mom? She's trying. She messages now without asking for anything. She tells me about her garden, about her neighbors, about the new book she's reading. She even asked me once what I'm feeling, not just what I'm doing. That might not sound like much, but in my world, that's a miracle. And me, I'm still figuring it out, still balancing empathy and self-respect. Love and limits, loyalty and liberation. But I'm also living now, not just surviving. Not just earning my right to exist in someone else's narrative. So, am I the bad guy for drawing a line? Maybe to some, I am. Maybe to the people who see family as unquestionable obligation, I'm selfish, but I've learned this: choosing your peace doesn't make you a villain. It just means you've stopped letting someone else write your story.